Hey guys, Ashley Bowden here for The Buzz, and we have paged Dr. Greenthumb himself. That's right, we are chatting it up with Be Real from the legendary hip-hop group Cypress Hill. We're going to be talking about 50 years of hip-hop, his cannabis line, and so much more. You don't want to miss it. The interview starts right now.
Hey, don't miss out. I want you passing. You're missing the hooter of the funky Buddha. I looter of your fuck styles to get wicked. So come on, it's Cypress starts to kick it.
Take me back to, let's say it's 1991. I Could Just Kill a Man was just released. Take me back to that time in your life. What was the vibe? What were you feeling? What was life like?
Well, you know, we had put out the album and it was probably 6 months in, and it was like not necessarily dead in the water, but slow moving, because we had originally put out Funky Phil one, which was a double A side with Kill a Man on the other side of it, and it wasn't until DJs started flipping that and playing Kill a Man in the mix, and eventually it caught the ear of the Bomb Squad, Public Enemy's Chuck D, and they were working on the soundtrack for Juice at the time. And we were getting a lot of mixed show run, and they obviously called Sony for the license of this song. And Sony realized the momentum we were having with this song, and we were at that time on tour with Naughty by Nature, opening up for them. They had OPP out at the time, #1 single. So we were opening up for them, and we just happened to be on the East Coast, and Sony decided to pull us off the road for the weekend so we could film 2 videos, which was How I Could Just Kill a Man and Hand on the Pump. And we didn't realize the momentum that was happening with How I Could Just Kill a Man, because we were just constantly on the road trying to win people over. We didn't know that DJs had flipped the record, and then we started hearing about the momentum, and then the news came in about, that they wanted Kill a Man on the Juice soundtrack. And they ended up putting it in one of the most pivotal scenes in the movie, and that just blew the song up, to a degree we did not see happening.
Right. Were you ready for it when it hit? Because I'm sure it was intense.
Absolutely not.
We're ready. Yeah.
No. I mean, I was still green, but it felt good to see that something that we thought was great to us.
Yeah.
Resonate to other people, and it be like the main song in that movie in terms of the soundtrack. It propelled us in a way that we wouldn't have had that kind of opportunity, because the context of the song was a little bit aggressive for regular radio, so we weren't getting the rotation other artists got. We were getting mixed show rotation, which is significant in some ways, but if you're only getting played once one time during the week, only so many people know about you. But when that came out in the movie, and then MTV fortunately played the video, because it was something kind of different than what everybody else had at that time, that just did wonders for us in terms of blowing the music up.
Do you remember when it actually hit, or when you realized it hit? What were you guys doing? Were you guys still touring? You remember that moment?
It was Lollapalooza, the first show, because we had just come off doing a bunch of club style venues and small halls and things like that. Never any festivals yet at that point. And House of Pain, I believe, had to leave that tour for whatever reason. I don't know if they were kicked off because they were wilding out early on, or they booked another tour or something like that. But they asked us to come in and do the rest of the dates, which was a 2-3 week run or something like that. And when we got there, we were on the second stage, the smaller stage, or one of the smaller stages, and there was nobody there. Like, as we're starting the set, we're like, damn, why are we here? There's nobody here. Everybody's on the big side of the stage. We're going to be performing to like 5 people right here, right? But once Muggs started the music, the few scratches that he put down, and then the intro, people just started flooding in from, all over the festival. And before you know it, it was like 5,000 people in the area just swelled up. And we're like, wow. And when Killer Man came on, they went, they lost their mind. And this was like, obviously before Insane, and they were, just losing it. And that's when we knew, okay, this song got legs, because this ain't necessarily a hip hop crowd. And we knew that it had effect on the hip hop crowds, because we had just finished doing, all these different shows, killing it with that song. And when the alternative kids got a hold of it, they started going, pretty nuts to it as well. And we were like, okay, yeah, this song there's something special about it.
It was a bit of a crossover.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't necessarily hit crossover radio, but like just the vibe of it, definitely.
Yeah, okay. So you guys often shouted out the Beastie Boys. You talk about your relationship with them. I mean, how did you guys influence each other, if at all?
Yeah, I don't know what they saw in us, but like they just decided, hey, we want to get with these guys, right? Like, so they had heard about us because we were wild like they were in those times. And, we were slightly influenced by them in terms of tone of my vocal pitch and all that. And they had heard about us, and they had a show at the Octagon Room or club or something like that in New York. Okay. Or no, it was the building. Sorry, it was the building. And so we went and opened for them, and we killed it that night with their crowd, because nobody knew who we were yet. I mean, we had our crowd, but it was a Beastie show that was already sold out. We were just like, put on to open. So, there was none of our fans there. It was all their fans, and their fans embraced us. And, maybe they saw that and they decided, hey, we're going to put them on a So What You Want remix. So, then they asked Muggs to do the remix. So eventually he tells me to put a verse on it. Beastie Boys use it. Then eventually the Check Your Head tour comes, and they ask us to be on it. And this is when we have some pretty good momentum at this point. And doing that tour opened up a lot of doors for us, because we won a lot of their fans over during the course of that tour. And we opened up a lot of people's eyes that we could hang with like groups like Henry Rollins and the Beastie Boys, which were, they were putting down awesome shows at this point. So to be able to like be in the arena with them and hold our own, it just opened up other doors. We started we get called back to Lollapalooza to do the main stage and stuff like that. So the Beastie Boys putting the stamp on us by inviting us on that first show, then the remix, and then the tour. I mean, that was everything. And they were always cool to us, just like from way back before they even knew who we were. Yeah. They were just always cool. So we got a special place in our hearts for the Beastie Boys.
Got the big brown boots when you wanna get kicked like a rhyme. From the heart, then the mind. There was a time when the blood got lit. I took a hit of the green, then blew a smoke screen.
Cypress Hill has been at the forefront of normalizing the recreational use of marijuana. What was it like touring back then? Because you guys openly smoked marijuana on stage before it was legal. What did you ever have any run-ins with the police? What was that like? Were you ever scared?
We were like really punk rock at that point. For being hip hoppers, we were pretty punk rock. In other words, we didn't really care what anyone thought. We smoked anywhere, anytime, like it was our right to. It wasn't, obviously, at that point, but we felt like, what, this is how we live it at home. We're going to live it like this everywhere, right? And it just became a thing where people appreciated that we were just so upfront with it and championing and advocating and doing the activism for legalization, things like that. I mean, we started off as just stoners that appreciated cannabis, but growing up in California, High Times was one of the big magazines out here to young stoners, and occasionally we read articles about freedom fighting and whatnot. meaning, people that were out there fighting for the rights of cannabis users and fighting for legalization and whatnot. So we started learning about guys like Ed Rosenthal and Chef Ra and eventually Jack Herrera, who mentored us through our cannabis education, if you will, introduced us to many others in the cannabis industry at the time, and pretty much made us read his book, Emperor Wears No Clothes, which, is very insightful to someone learning about, everything else other than recreational use of cannabis.
Okay. Did you ever have any close calls with
Well, we had a couple of law enforcement officials come and say, hey, look, we know you're going to smoke tonight. Don't do it. We're fans, but we will take you to jail. And so, I always respected the ones that were going to give us the heads up.
Okay.
Because I knew they were like going out of their way to say, hey, we appreciate you. Maybe we don't agree with what you do, and maybe low key some of us are fans of what you do, but don't do it tonight.
Okay.
Because we will have to take you in. So in those times, I respected them for giving me that heads up.
Yeah.
The other times when they didn't give us the heads up and they just sort of were there, but not imposing or hovering around or trying to intimidate, we did our thing. And I think they thought, these guys don't have the audacity to be smoking real cannabis in front of us. And guess what? We did. We had the audacity. We did that.
Real audacious. Speaking of audacity, you were really bold. You would FedEx weed to locations that you guys would go to.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Our crew was just bold, as you say, however we can get it, we were going to get it. We just tried to be very careful about it, though, because, we knew some guys that tried it and they didn't succeed because they just didn't go through all the things that you should if you're going to send it through FedEx. But, we were just being crazy and we wanted what we wanted.
Yeah.
We didn't trust buying cannabis from anywhere else in the country because you just didn't know what you were going to get. So we'd have our boys back here just sending it out to us, wherever we thought it was safe enough. Like if it was a zero tolerance state, hell no, we weren't sending it there. Mm-hmm. Because I've had a run in with that for sure. When I was playing paintball, we FedEx some of our own cannabis to our hotel in Florida. One of our guys did not go through all the things properly, and it got snatched up, and they were waiting for us on the other side.
Oh no!
Yeah, and they took 3 of us in, slapped us with a cannabis possession, all that stuff, and it was the one time that one of our guys totally botched it and got caught out there, but it was a small amount.
Yeah. Did you guys stop after that though?
No.
I remember I saw a clip, you were accepting an award. I think it was, I forgot what
Billboard award.
It was a billboard.
Yeah.
And you were the last thing you said, you're legalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to light that joint too, but then I thought, then they'll ban us for life. And, that would be
like SNL.
Horrible. Yeah. But, they did ban us in a way because we never went back to another Billboard award after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe they didn't like that.
They didn't like it. I mean, because I had a joint present, and
so
back then it was very taboo. I should have just lit it. But SNL was the place, and Muggs did that one, so,
Yeah, Muggs lit it up.
Yeah, he sure did.
All right, so you guys are the first hip-hop group to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Why do you think you guys were chosen to be first?
I don't know. That's always a question we ask ourselves. But, when we look at some of the things that we've done in terms of hip-hop and being from Southern California, it's hard pressed to say why not, right? But when you think about the other cats that were before us. There was plenty of that could have went before us. But I think the fact that we're still active on the level that we are active, and we're still doing different things aside from, just the music, the documentary and things like that. And we're just constantly pushing forward, I think. And I think the next push for us would be naturally, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's out of our, control. That's up to them, and then it's up to people to nominate us and stuff like that. But for us, when we have these achievements, it was not anything that we ever thought like we want to get that. We want a Grammy. We want this and that and the other. It was never for that, and it still is not for that. We always just it was about the music, and if the fans appreciated that was everything. So it's still that to us. So when we get all these awards or accolades and stuff like that, it's extra and it feels great, but it was never the main focus. But yeah, I mean, if I mean, if they wanted to give it to us, we were not going to say no. That's all I could say, because I mean, it's been at that point, it was like at 20 some odd years that we had been doing it, and we've accomplished a lot for some guys that we didn't see any of it coming. We just wanted to do what we loved, Right. So it's an awesome feeling, though. Well, it was an awesome feeling receiving it and seeing all of our fans show up for that, because that was another thing we didn't anticipate. We knew we'd be getting the star and all that stuff after they told us, and we figured our family and close friends would be there, but we did not know that the swell of fans would show up like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that was cool.
That's very humble of you, because I'm shocked that you didn't expect that. But
you never know.
Yeah. Do you ever go back?
We go back every now and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take a look at it. That's nice. So Dr. Greenthumb you've turned it into quite the brand. You have the Dr. Greenthumb store. You've got a lot going on. Tell us about it. You actually just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of the store. So tell us about what you have going on right now.
Yeah, we're still working on the brand, expanding to open more stores here in Southern California, well, throughout California, and to eventually other states like New York and Massachusetts and Colorado, Nevada, and the rest. And that's something we're constantly working to make happen. And we have 3 coming up in this next year and a half here in California, and I believe Michigan or Massachusetts is after that. So and eventually Arizona. So the plan was to plant our flag in places that we knew that Cypress Hill does really well, and that we've been there and have had presence and whatnot. So that was the initial plan. But as we've grown as a brand in terms of word of mouth and the type of marketing we do through our Dr. Greenthumb show and our other platforms and whatnot, we've been able to take the brand to places that maybe Cypress Hill doesn't necessarily visit, but they know of the Greenthumb brand because of our interviews like the Smoke Box and the Dr. Greenthumb podcast, like newer ears and eyes and faces and stuff like that, because our Cypress Hill fans definitely always ride with what we do. So when we opened up Dr. Greenthumb's, it was that at first, like all the Cypress Hill fans coming at us. But when you produce the type of cannabis we produce and the products and the quality of it, if you do it right, they come back. And then the word starts spreading through other people, and that's what happened with the brand is, my partner in the brand that does the cultivation aspect of it. I mean, he's been one of the top cultivators down here in California for a long time. And so when we put something out, people get behind it.
Yeah.
And when other states hear about all this stuff, that, the constant thing we get is, when are you going to open up here, or when are you going to open up there? And that makes us feel like we're doing something right, because if no one was asking us that, then maybe we're just a California brand and we stay here. But the fact that other people in different states are excited about it, and they're constantly hitting us up like, hey, when are you coming out here? So, to that I say, soon.
Very
enough.
soon. At least there's a demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for clarification, Dr. Greenthumb is an actual store, and it's a podcast, obviously.
Yes.
And a marijuana brand.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's all three things. It's actually a retail store that we put our Insane Cannabis brand in, but we also have a Dr. Greenthumb's brand as well. And it's also the podcast and the show. And it's who knew that it would evolve into this from the song that I made so many years ago.
Yeah.
With Cypress. But it was, that was the natural transition for me into the cannabis industry. If Cypress wasn't going to go, that was my outlet, was that song, that name, to make it a brand and a culture, you know.
It transitioned you from Be Real, the rapper, to Be Real, the entrepreneur.
Right.
The businessman.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the way that started, the Dr. Greenthumb name in general started, was we grew cannabis, obviously, and I was doing a radio show at 92.3 The Beat at the time, when 92.3 The Beat was The Beat. Now it's The Real.
The Real.
Yeah. And so I had a Friday night show with my partner Eric Bobo, who is our percussion player in Cypress Hill and co-host of the Dr. Greenthumb show. And we were doing sketches, sort of like Saturday Night Live, but audio style. And we wrote a fake infomercial for the character Dr. Greenthumb. If you wanted to grow, and all these different tips. And it's actually the intro of the song on the album. So the intro came first, and I thought, why not a song? But I didn't really think about it until I heard the beat. Got to the studio, Muggs had this beat on, and I was like, oh, Dr. Greenthumb. And that birthed the song, from the sketch to the idea of the song, and then eventually it becomes my brand in the cannabis industry.
We can't go without attention. Hello, my name is Dr. Greenthumb. Hello, my name is Dr. Greenthumb. Hello, my name is Dr. Greenthumb.
And then it became the name of the podcast because, when I got into streaming, which was about 12 years ago through Stickam. It was Ustream and Stickam. Stickam was the bigger platform. And they sort of helped me launch my first live streams, which were called the 420 Show. And I thought that, eventually after 2 or 3 years of that, I thought it was pretty generic because there was a lot of 420 shows out there. So I thought, why not use the name? And I flipped it to the Dr. Greenthumb Show.
And you're having fun with it because you have the smoke box, which
Right.
is like a play on hotboxing.
Right.
And you have an actual car.
Right.
I don't know if people realize that's an actual car.
Oh, yeah, it's an actual car.
How did you come up with that concept?
One of our guys that used to work here with us, his name was Pete Sobat, came up with the idea, because we were trying to figure out, what type of content could go for us, right? Mm-hmm. And he says, what about, you sitting in the car smoking out with friends, like celebrity friends, and just have it like a conversation, like the old days when you used to come out of the studio and you used to reference a song. You used to pull your boys out, go into the car, pop the tape in to see if the mix was cracking, and you would smoke out before, while you were listening to the song. And I thought, yeah, that could be a cool idea. I don't know about listening to the music because YouTube will strike your ass down for some copywritten music.
Yeah,
so
take you right down.
Yeah, so I thought, well, maybe not necessarily listen to music, but just smoking and having the conversation, definitely. Yes, and that's how it happened. I didn't know if it was going to stick or not because we're smoking weed in the car and it's YouTube. But fortunately, they let it live, and I started getting like guests that I didn't think I would ever be able to get, like Melissa Etheridge, for instance. That was like crazy to get her.
Yeah.
Didn't think that she would come on, but she did, and it was awesome. Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and Furious came on. Salute to Michelle, she's a friend of ours, but I didn't think that she'd get in there. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of lets people live out their I don't want to say taboos, but that's just something that
Step up and challenge themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we come and visit the Dr. Greenthumb store, what are the chances we're gonna have you checking us out at the register?
Well, we talked about doing a thing like that.
Okay.
Because back in the days before I had the shops opened up, I'd be asked to come to other shops and do like what we know as meet and greets now, and every now and then they'd have us do bud tender work, like or not necessarily bud. Well, yeah, I guess it would be bud tenders and cash register work, so that people felt they were buying it from us and stuff like that. And we had a conversation about doing that at Greenthumb. So I think at some point we are going to do something like that.
All right, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's not too far-fetched from what you guys did after your shows. Like after your festivals, y'all went out into the crowd
Oh, yeah.
and connected with people.
Yeah.
So that's a part of your brand as well.
Yeah, early on with the Smoke and Grooves tours, that's what we were doing. No one else was really doing that. We insisted to the promoters that we wanted our own booth next to our merch booth. And we weren't going to sell anything there. We had to assure them that we weren't going to sell anything. We were just going to sign autographs or take pictures and things like that, spend time with our fans. We didn't know how many people would be showing up, but it would be like hundreds of kids. And somebody would be on, and we'd feel bad about that because there was like 300-400 kids in line to hang with us as opposed to watching whatever artist that was supposed to be on. So we felt bad about that in some ways, and other ways we're like, fuck it, this is our army right here. They're coming to sign up, and we obliged. We were all about the fans, still are. That's why we do these shows, because our Dr. Greenthumb show is interactive, so it's a live show with the live chat room in every platform, and we engage it, and we allow them to be a voice on the show as well. So, and it stems from those times when we used to do those particular meet and greet style things. But yeah, that's been something that's been with us for since day one.
Yeah. Just creating those memorable experiences for your fans.
Yeah, and for ourselves. There's a lot of stuff that we carry that from this day, that experience that we've had with fans, that a lot of times a fan will come up, hey, do you remember at this show in 1990 something, and this, that, and the other. And it's sometimes you're hard pressed to remember that because you've had so many experiences. But when you're not asked that, you could sit there and have a conversation with the guys that you've done this with and be like, hey, remember that one year where that fan came and did this or that? And so you have these memories the same way they have their memories of hanging with us. And that's what it's all about, the exchange of those moments.
So where can people find you? Where can people find the store? Information about the store, about the brand, all of that good stuff.
Well, you could just Google me, and I'm all over the place. Blue checks on everyone. But with the Dr. Greenthumb's retail, like on Instagram, they could find us at Dr. Greenthumb's, and that'll be a link to all the other stores and stuff that we have. And we're out there, and everything we do with Dr. Greenthumb's and Insane and the podcast and everything, we run a lot of it through our home site, which is www.bereal.tv. So anything that relates to the podcast or the retail stores or the brand itself, they can come check out BeReal.tv, and they'll have all that info readily available. What's up? This is Be Real, a.k.a. Dr. Greenthumb, and you just been buzzed.